This Choircast podcast is brought to you by How to Not Suck as a Christian. This book is a witty, no BS guide to unlearning the toxic parts of Christianity, like purity culture, apologetics, and the idea that God's love is limited to straight conservative Americans. It's sharp, it's irreverent, and it'll definitely make your fundamentalist aunt clutch her pearls. You can get the audiobook on Audible. Print and ebooks of How to Not Suck as a Christian are available to ship to your aunt wherever books are sold. Welcome to the Unbelief Podcast, your journey, actually our journey together beyond inherited beliefs to a spirituality that works for you. I'm your host, Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. We can fix that later, right? No? Things are about to get weird. Yes, you have made it to another book club episode of the Unbelief Podcast, and we are diving deep into the plagues. Okay, we've been in this Exodus story, this story about an authoritarian leader, and when everything goes off the rails, when the people of God are experiencing just this awful oppression, like the people who are doing the right things are not being rewarded. Instead, it is an authoritarian leader who have taken control, and when they try to speak up, the authoritarian leader continues to push them down, to punish them, to not listen, and to take the wrong tack. And today, it's going to get serious. But now look, the refrain that we have over and over again is that we take the Bible seriously, not literally. And this is one of those places where people just go insane. They go off the reservation and they start trying to figure out the science behind exactly how the 10 plagues happened, right? How is it that water could turn to blood? How is it that and what happens when that is not what this is about. And any amount of time that you spend trying to take this literally and find a scientific explanation for it is really a waste of time, because the point of this is not the science. The point of this is not the literal exactly what happened. The point of this is much deeper. So we're not going to talk about the science, because this may or may not have even happened at all. And whether or not it happened, whether or not there's some sort of scientific way for it to happen, has absolutely no bearing on the truth that we should find from it. One of those truths is that this is a powerful person. The Pharaoh is the ultimate power at this time in this region, and people with power, the power itself can create this unique kind of hardness, like this unique kind of, people will call it ego, right? That there is nothing that anyone could say that would convince them that they are not God, right? That they are not the ruler, that they are not the smartest person in the room, that they are not the only one that is going to be able to solve this problem, that their random idea is not the one that should be done. Power can create this unique hardness. And that is the word that's used over and over again about Pharaoh's heart. And remember, heart is not the seat of the emotions, it's the seat of the will in Hebrew. And so this hardness of him doing anything else, right? Of changing course. And that is something that you can see in any powerful person, or I should say in many powerful people, a hardness to consider other paths, to not assume that their path is the only correct one. And there's a lot of ways that might break, but normally what you see is that the only way that kind of hardness is broken is when there is defeat. when someone demonstrates that they are more powerful than the powerful person. So we are in Exodus chapter 7. And in Exodus chapter 7, it's going to begin the 10 plagues. But before the 10 plagues, there's going to be something else. God is telling at the very beginning, Moses and Aaron, okay, you've got to go to the Pharaoh, and you're going to tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of this land, but Pharaoh's heart will be hard. All of that. We've heard this before. And then God says, okay, when Pharaoh says to you, this is in verse 8, perform a wonder, then God is talking to them, Moses and Aaron, that it says, you shall say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it down before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake. Now, here, the word snake is actually the word tanin. And that word is used in several other places in the Bible, right? That word tanin is used in these other places. And when it is used in those places, it actually refers not just to a random snake. It refers to a monstrous snake. You see it in Genesis chapter 1. It says God created the great sea monsters. That's that word tanin. You see it in Psalm 74. In Psalm 74, it is it says, you divided the sea by your might. You broke the heads of the dragons in the waters. So these sea dragons in Psalm chapter 74. You see it in Isaiah 27. On that day, the Lord with his cruel and great and strong sword will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the twisting serpent, and he will kill the dragon that is in the sea. The dragon is this word tanin. So when Aaron throws down his staff, what this passage in chapter 7, verse 8, when it becomes a snake, it's not just a snake. It is a massive, monstrous snake. So they go to Pharaoh. They do exactly what God commands. And then Pharaoh, it's all the things, right? Throw down the thing. It becomes this monstrous snake. Pharaoh summons the wise men, the sorcerers. They also do the same thing. Throw down the staff. They all of their staffs become these same, not tiny snakes, the massive, scary sea monster kind of snake. But the snake that was made from Aaron's staff eats up all of the other snakes. And this is a signal. This is a foreshadowing of Pharaoh's fate, right? That what God is doing is going to consume all of what Pharaoh is trying to do, to push back, to show that no, Pharaoh's people do the same thing. And this is important because every time Pharaoh's people are able to do the same thing, it's not the same. It's a little bit of the same, but it's not totally the same. The other thing that you see here is this first imagery of death. And in this story, every one of these plagues, death is going to be featured. That's important because it's leading somewhere. I don't know if you've ever heard that when a gun is shown in the first act of a movie or a play, that it has to go off in the third act, right? That when something is foreshadowed, there's a sort of psychological need of us to see that foreshadowing happen, right? That it's got to come to a culmination, and that's what is happening here. This is the first reference to death, and it's going to keep going and going until the final plague, the most tragic one. And so this, I think, is also important for us as we think about our own lives, right? What happens sometimes is that there will be someone in our life that comes and tries to help us. But they try to help us in a way that is correcting. They come and they reveal to you something that is lacking in you. They come to you and they show you a mistake that you keep making, right? We have these moments in our life where someone comes and gives us a sign of something that needs to happen.